Welcome to the Clear to Send podcast, a podcast about wireless engineering, where we educate you on Wi-Fi technology, talk about design tips, troubleshooting, interviews, and the tools. Here are your hosts, Rowell and François.
Hi guys, welcome to a brand new episode of the Clear to Send podcast. It's François, your host. I'm here with Rowell. Hi Rowell, how are you?
Hey, how's it going?
Very good, very good. So today we have just an episode to talk about anything Wi-Fi related, a Wi-Fi medley episode.
Yeah, I like that.
You like that, huh? And then so we have different topics we want to cover, and this week actually Cisco Live is happening. So you and I will be attending the conference.
Yeah.
If you guys are interested in meeting us, just don't hesitate to send us a tweet or something. We'll be able we'll have time to network with you guys and meet our listeners, I guess.
Yeah, Cisco Live is always about just networking with other people, so I think it's going to be really fun. I mean, you and I did this at the last Cisco Live. Was it the last one? Where we pretty much just cruised around the whole show floor and spoke with people, had good conversations, and even interviewed people.
Yeah, last year was nice. We got to meet some people, interview people, record a couple of episodes for the podcast. So hopefully this year we can do that again. We're planning on doing some videos as well. You'll bring your fancy camera. So yeah. So
I even have a new lens on it and a new microphone that'll be on that camera. So it'll be fun to use.
Yeah, so I'm looking forward to that. It's going to be my first time in San Diego.
Yeah.
So
it'll be nice.
Yeah, looking forward to that.
San Diego's a good place with good weather, so you're lucky.
Yeah. Summer's starting. I guess summer already started over there. It's probably already hot.
No, it's not.
No, it's not. Okay.
It doesn't get very hot in San Diego or in California in general.
Really? So, so we I just shared the sessions I chose for this year. If you guys are interested in checking it out, it's mainly Wi-Fi and 5G related. Mm-hmm. I know Rowell, you want to do some of the DevNet stuff as well.
Yeah, so mine is a handful of Wi-Fi. I think it's like half Wi-Fi, half DevNet, because I've been really trying to push myself to learn more of coding and Python. And this year I told myself I was going to do more Python, and I haven't made that much progress on it. So I guess if I'm going to go to Cisco Live, I'm going to do more hands-on stuff at the DevNet area and the workshops, and then also get more familiar with the Catalyst 9800 controller.
Yeah, that's good. I actually started to do some Python again like 2 weeks ago, after doing the conference event, because I wanted to automate some more work on some automation things. Mm-hmm. It's not easy.
No, yeah, it's definitely it's like learning something very brand new, right? So I had to go back into my thought process here, and it's like, okay, you could do this. You've learned something from scratch before. It's a little bit different. Just don't think of it as being intimidating. And then, but yeah, like you, I started yesterday again with Think Python.
So yeah, it's good. It's good to take the time. It's just like anything you need to practice. Like if you just take a lot of time off, you can forget everything. So you kind of have to do it, every you do often.
It regularly, right? And then like things like life get in the way, right? So you got family, you got work, and then you forget about it. So I have to schedule it in every day. At least see it there every day. I might not do it on that day, but at least I can say, all right, I didn't do it this day. Let me move it to the next day.
I just leave it open on my laptop. I'm like, oh yeah, I have this I'm working on.
Well, why do I have this document open with scripts?
Yeah.
I think one thing that people should know about Cisco Live is we're both doing an episode in the podcast domain. So if you guys have not ever heard of the podcast domain, it's a really cool place within the world of solutions where I think Lauren Friedman was the one that set this up initially a couple Cisco Lives ago, where they allow us to sit in a fishbowl because it's clear glass and everyone can see and listen in on what's being recorded. So we have a recording with Fred Niehaus, which I think is going to be really fun.
Yeah, that's awesome. For us, it's really good because all we have to do is just show up and talk to people, and then we don't have to set up any, gear. They just give us the recordings at the end on a USB key, and it's ours to use. So it's awesome, and plus we get access to engineer from Cisco, like you said, Fred Niehaus and other people. So it's very interesting, and you guys can just attend. While we record, you can just stand outside of the booth and just listen to what we're talking about.
Yeah, it's a live recording. Last year, a lot of people hung out there because there's always a recording going on. Last year, I was able to record for the Cisco Champions radio with Susie Wee of the DevNet, and that was really good. So yeah, I'd encourage you guys to come check out the podcast domain. It doesn't have to be us. There's other people that are recording as well. But I will have stickers that I'm bringing there, different formats of stickers. So I got like some larger sizes, some smaller, and logo only. So we're definitely going to be handing those out at Cisco Live.
Awesome. And it's also a lot of Cisco champions get involved in the podcast. Recordings, so you'll also be able to meet Cisco champions there. Mm-hmm. It's kind of like a gathering point.
Yeah, it is.
At least last year it was, so we'll see.
It's like Cisco Champion HQ at Cisco Live.
Yeah, I guess. All right, so that's Cisco Live. Let's move on to the next topic we wanted to talk about today, and that's captive portals, right? Everyone loves captive portals.
Yeah, our favorite thing about Wi-Fi is creating captive portals.
Yeah, that's actually the main reason why we do Wi-Fi, right? Captive portals.
To make your life a living hell.
Yeah. So I think it's been a trend lately to try to avoid using captive portal, because captive portal just add like a layer of complexity and then another piece in the overall network that could fail and bring bad user experience. We've all been to public places that has slow captive portal, and we just think the Wi-Fi is not good. And so that's another piece you have to think about when you engineer your network, especially when you operate it. You have to think about certificates, HTTP, HTTPS, all these type of things when you deal with captive portal. Yeah. So it's just easier. Yeah, redirect. It's just easier if you just don't have any captive portal. The only issue with not having a captive portal is that sometimes you have rule and regulations in countries that mandate the operator to do some type of logging or tracking. So you kind of have to tell the users you're doing it. So therefore, you need a captive portal.
Yeah, you have to. There's going to be some sort of terms and conditions everyone has to apply to, or you have an organization where the lawyers really want a captive portal just to release all liability of someone joining their wireless network. Yeah. But because of that, because we have these captive portals, there is a page that the Wireless Broadband Alliance has set up that describes the captive portal behavior of different device types, which I think is really interesting.
Yeah, it's a very interesting page. It just details how different OS handle captive portals. And they included some technical details that could be useful for us to just understand how it works. How does the device behave when it connects to an SSID that broadcasts the captive portal? What are the different steps that the device is going through? And then what type of URL is the device requesting? And so they detail that in their article. So we included the link in the show notes if you guys are interested. I think it got shared on Twitter.
Yeah, I think I found this through Keith Parsons.
Okay.
I think it was Keith Parsons, but it's a detailed page describing for different device types like your iOS, your Android, even like Google Android, Samsung Android, your Mac OS, your Windows, your Linux, your Chrome OS, everything you could think of.
And they even have a diagram that we included in the show notes, just explains a little bit the different steps and how the OS operate, interact with the captive portal.
Yeah, and it looks a lot more complicated than you think, right? There's a lot of different steps, a lot of layers of where it could break. And for us, going through this document, I think gives us an upper hand when it comes to troubleshooting device connectivity when maybe the captive portal is not working, right? You can do a check and go, all right, where is this failing? Is it because it's doing a URL check and somehow that URL is not like it's not doing the check properly? I don't know, but you can see all the URLs that a captive portal check for different devices, like Apple, iOS, and Android have multiple URLs that they check for.
And in this document, they talk about, on this article, they talk about the CPMB, so the captive portal mini browser. And it's kind of like the mini browser that just pops up when you connect to a guest Wi-Fi, and then the captive portal shows up in the little window. So that's kind of like what they're referring to here with the CPMB, captive portal mini browser. And some interesting facts, they tell you when the CPMB is actually activated and when it's not, and they give you different reasons. And depending on if you connected via VPN or if you're not, it might not show up. So all these little details are specified in the website. So you actually learn a few things, and that helps you to better troubleshooting when a user calls you and tells you the captive portal is not working.
Yeah, and I think what's what's interesting too is like Windows 10. It says that the behavior there is it's manual, right? It's a manual browser redirect, and it uses the user's preferred browser. Yeah, and if you look at iOS and the other devices, there's a specific browser that they use for captive portal. So for iOS, they call it the web sheet.
Yeah, and for macOS, they call it the Captive Network Assistant, CNA.
Yeah, so I think these details are good to have, especially if you have to deal with captive portals or try to understand how whatever captive portal you're using ties into your wireless network. And it just gives us more information, more something that we can keep in our back pocket when it comes to understanding how your wireless network is supposed to work and how those devices are going to interact with that network.
Yeah, and it also helps you to understand why sometimes you have, the warning, the warning if you use like an unsecure connection or HTTP captive portal. Sometimes you have this warning message that's going to show up because you're not using HTTPS. Sometimes it can throw people off. Some OS don't work well with that.
Yeah.
So we put the link if you guys are interested in reading the document. They added more details about them as well, each of them.
And I think
it can help you.
We should also go and talk a little bit about the Wireless Broadband Alliance, because you and I were talking about this before we started recording. I wasn't too familiar with the Wireless Broadband Alliance until really looking at this page and then diving into the WBA in detail. But it sounds like they're an interesting organization. Initially, I thought they were very similar to the Wi-Fi Alliance. They're slightly different, but I get this feeling that they're more technical than the Wi-Fi Alliance, and actually I feel like their objectives seem to be more in line with engineers.
Yeah, you and I were looking at a document called Wi-Fi Deployment Guidelines that they have on their website that describes different things to do when you deploy Wi-Fi, and it's kind of like a checklist, and they give you different criterias for the planning, the deployment, and the validation, and so on. So it was pretty interesting, and they if you look at the members of, it looks like it's very service provider oriented though, if you look at the list of members.
Yeah, definitely service provider oriented. Those that are like either putting Wi-Fi in stadiums, for example. But some of the members are familiar to you guys, like Microsoft's on there, and I mean, there's Facebook, a lot of members.
Cisco,
Facebook, Cisco, Intel.
And you have all the big service providers like Comcast, even like the one from different countries. You have, Dutch Telecom and, T-Mobile and SK Telecom. And then you have, Google, Aruba, Huawei, all these guys.
Okay, so the document itself, I think only members can download this Wi-Fi deployment guideline. But for the rest of us who are not members, there is a Wi-Fi compliance checklist. I'm not really sure what that means, but it has some interesting data there that ties back to different sections of the deployment guideline. And they do talk about, your planning, what your PoE requirements are, like what kind of PoE do you have, security, and then there's some site survey criteria, whether it's a passive or active survey, the implementation, which goes down to like your backhaul, your layer 3 boundaries, was your Wi-Fi network designed for capacity or coverage, and then the documentation. So I think there's a document out there that kind of that the Wireless Broadband Alliance is kind of pushing out as here's a document that you should use when you're deploying Wi-Fi, whether that's like your in-flight Wi-Fi, enterprise Wi-Fi, venue, citywide Wi-Fi, even hospitality. So a lot of these big companies, I guess, are following this guideline.
Yeah, and I don't know why, but originally I thought the Wireless Broadband Alliance was more focused on cellular technologies. But when you look at their website, they actually have quite a lot of things related to Wi-Fi. Mm-hmm. They call it next-gen Wi-Fi. I don't know what that is. But they also, have things related to 5G, IoT, roaming. But they have quite a bit of information on Wi-Fi. So maybe it's worth for us to take a deeper look at it and see, how it could help us to learn about their documents.
Yeah, because they have their own certification as well. They have this Carrier Wireless Services certification. So I'm not sure what's involved, but interesting to figure out what's going on there.
And they have something called the World Wi-Fi Day. Yeah, that's interesting. Anyway, yeah. So that's a Wireless Broadband Alliance, and these are the guys behind the article we were talking about related to captive portals. Mm-hmm. So just to give you a little bit of background information. So yeah, so going, circling back to captive portals, and so yeah, I would be interested to know actually, your views, your listeners, like what do you do with captive portals? Do you try to just implement them and have it as simple as possible? Do you use them for making money out of guest Wi-Fi? Are you trying to remove them from your network and then seeing some admin issues with that or legal issues? Mm-hmm. Please feel free to share your views on it. And yeah, I would be interested to know how you guys are dealing with captive portals.
Cool. All right. So the next thing we want to talk about relates to Wi-Fi 6, because you and I have been doing a lot of this Wi-Fi 6 testing. We've got the 802.11ax series. So if you guys haven't heard that series, it's cleartosend.net/AX, and you can see all the Wi-Fi 6 episodes there. But there is an Intel chipset available for everyone to purchase. So if your laptop is compatible, you can get this chipset for as low as $19 US dollars.
Yeah,
and I think
it's
that's
getting pretty affordable.
Yeah, because when I bought it maybe a couple of weeks ago, and it was $30 US.
You need to ask for your money back, Rowell.
I know, right? It's too late to return it. I should be getting it soon.
Oh, man. So I just noticed the link we have is not working anymore. So we'll have to find another link.
Oh, see, you clicked on it. They monitored it.
Yeah. They're like, these guys from the podcast, they're all going to rush and buy it. But
$19,
so the name of the chipset is called the AX200NGW. So once again, maybe it's the next gen Wi-Fi. NGW. But yeah, so that's the one from Intel, and you can purchase it, like Rowell said, if your laptop is compatible or computer is compatible with it, you can install it and use it for your laptop. We interviewed Hendrik Lutz for the podcast yesterday, and he told me he installed it in his laptop and he was using it the whole time we recorded, so it worked pretty well, I guess. For him.
Yeah, there you go. Yeah, it's made from Intel. So this should be an easy upgrade. Just check your laptop to see if it's compatible. We'll include an actual good link that has the details of what that card looks like and its format, because not every laptop's going to support it. And also, it depends too if your laptop will take the drivers to make this card usable on your laptop. And I've heard pretty good success from people online saying, yeah, they were able to add it and Windows found a driver automatically, which is surprising to me, but hey.
Hendrik was telling me he had to update his Windows. He had to install like a Windows update for Windows 10, but after that, everything worked fine.
Okay.
So, and just for your record, if you buy 50 of them, you have 5% off.
I guess if you've got that many, there's going to be a lot of people with maybe that many laptops, right? They're lab scenarios, or maybe they've got corporate laptops that they deploy to everybody. They could upgrade their Wi-Fi chips pretty quickly with Wi-Fi 6 capable chipsets.
We should get a sponsor and then buy 50 of them and then just distribute them to listeners.
If you want to sponsor the show so we can get Wi-Fi 6 cards to raffle off.
Give away. Yeah, that would be awesome.
Let us know.
a Wi-Fi 6 chipset and a sticker. Sounds good. Huh?
There's actually quite a bit of reviews on this card. 28 reviews, and it's 5 out of 5 stars.
That's awesome.
I'm not sure if these guys are like, yeah, there's some that are saying that they're using it for testing on 802.11ax, and someone that's studying for their CWNP. That's cool. That they're just star ratings, but I mean it's backwards compatible. So if you install it and you don't have a Wi-Fi 6 network, it's fine. It's AC as well. But it'll work.
It's actually cool. How many times do you see CWNP on AliExpress?
On a review, yeah.
Yeah, that's pretty cool.
So we'll link out to that in the show notes. You can purchase it. I think it's very affordable. I'm still waiting for mine. I should be getting it soon before Cisco Live. So hopefully I'll get to try it out and then actually test it out with the Wi-Fi 6 APs that I have, because that dives into our next subject with the Samsung S10. I couldn't wait for the Intel chipset, so I just went and got a Samsung S10. I got an unlocked version, so I guess when I'm done with this thing, if anyone wants to buy this off my hands, you guys can have it.
You don't like the phone itself?
I like the phone, but I already have a phone.
Okay. You like your iPhone better?
It's just, yeah, I'm totally ingrained into the Apple ecosystem, so I can't really use a Samsung phone for personal stuff. Maybe I can. We'll see. But I've been primarily using it for Wi-Fi 6 testing, and I don't really see the benefits with just one device. You know what I mean? Connected to your Wi-Fi 6 access point. So that's why I'm waiting for the Intel card, so then I could do 2 Wi-Fi 6 devices with the APs that I have, and then be able to do some captures there. But initially I did some testing. I don't know how much you've been testing yours, François. I know you've been busy traveling, but I've had a little bit of time to set up the Cisco the Catalyst 9115, and also we have an Ingenious AP. I think it's the EWS 357 AP. Both are Wi-Fi 6 capable, and I've been doing some basic iPerf tests to see how that works, and then doing a capture to pick up the frames as well to see what that looks like.
Yeah, so the I also have the Ingenious AP, but for some reason the mine doesn't have the proper firmware. So they sent me the firmware, the AX firmware, so I could update it and start using it as a Wi-Fi 6 AP. I have the Aero Hives that it's just easy for me to just connect and work with. I'm still trying to set up the controller, the Catalyst 9800 on my MacBook Pro in a VM, and I'm not having any luck so far. So I wasn't able to test my Cisco Wi-Fi 6 AP yet, but I'm hoping soon I'll be able to do that. But yeah, I've done some speed tests as well, iPerf, and looking at the spectrum. Maybe we can share some of the videos of that. Just for do you want to talk about the different challenges we ran into when we tried to do packet captures?
Yeah. So I'll detail a little bit about my setup. So I have the Cisco 802.11ax AP connected to a 3504. So in order to do that, you have to run 8.9.100 on the controller. And then, sorry, my voice is just all over the place. Every time I record, I feel sick for some reason.
I hope it's
been like that. It's been like that for the last 4 episodes. So the 3504, you can, once you're running the right version of code to join the AP, you can see the 11AX features. So I pretty much just played with the default 11AX features. I think I enabled, or no, they were already enabled, the MCS rates for 11AX. And so with the Samsung, I joined that to the 9115. And then what I was really trying to look for was the MCS rate that the phone was getting, right? I could not find that on the controller, but I believe once I SSH'd into the AP itself, I was able to see the MCS rate. Kind of looks a little cryptic, but I believe that's where I see the MCS rate. And so in my environment, I'm running it on either channel 36 on a Uni 1 or Uni 2 band, just to see if I can get clean Wi-Fi with, so usually I have to do DFS because I got neighbors. So I was trying to get clean Wi-Fi so I can see if I'm getting 1024 QAM, right? I think I got it once and I haven't been able to get it since. But when I was testing this with my phone, I also wanted to see the frames, right? So the first thing people usually do is oh, maybe I can use AirTool. But the card on the laptop cannot demodulate those 11AX frames. And so I decided, okay, what about the Sidekick? And I think it's the same thing for the Sidekick, because every time I would look at the capture, I would not see any data frames. I could see beacons and then see that it's advertising 11AX. There's a high efficiency subfield there.
Information element, yeah.
Yeah, I wasn't able to actually see any data frames. So clearly the chipsets I have cannot demodulate Wi-Fi 6.
Yes, I was running into the same issue. I was doing it with Cedric in France, and we tried both the AirTool and the Psychic, and we're seeing the same behaviors. Yeah. We could use we could see the control and management frames, but for the data frames, we had weird results in Wireshark. It was unknown frames or multicast.
Yeah,
frames.
there is a bunch of multicast frames. I kept seeing a lot of that. And also unknown frames that had no label to it, right? They were kind of blank.
Yeah.
And then so that made me think, okay, what version of Wireshark am I running? And does it support 802.11ax frames? So I think the one I'll have to get the version of it supports 11ax frames. What I resorted to doing, because I had my 9115 connected to my controller, you can put the AP into a sniffer mode. And when you put that into sniffer mode, it's going to be like AirTool. It's going to sniff all the frames. And so within the controller, I tell it to send anything it sniffs to my laptop. And in my laptop, I'm running Wireshark. And so I give it the IP address of my laptop. I can see that my laptop all of a sudden is receiving a bunch of data. But in Wireshark, you have to put a special filter. You have to do UDP port 5555 because that's how the controller's sending the frames to you, and then you'll be able to actually see the 802.11 frames within Wireshark after you're done collecting. And there, I was able to see the data frames because I'm using the access point, which has a Wi-Fi 6 chip on it, to demodulate those frames. But then you must be thinking, well, if you're using the AP to sniff, how are you sending traffic? I have another AP that's also Wi-Fi 6, so I was able to use that to transmit and receive data.
So it's doable. You just need a lot of hardware.
Yeah, pretty much. And for me, the easiest way to do this was using the controller and putting it into, instead of local mode, you put it into sniffer mode.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Okay. So that's
from
interesting.
From there, that's like just to get the captures. And I haven't fully analyzed everything. I was just making sure I got data frames in there. But I also set up iPerf on a Linux VM, or I was using iPerf 3. So initially my iPerf tests weren't that great. I was getting like 24 megabits per second, right? But when I do my tests, when you do your iPerf tests, you got to make sure, okay, what's the path that it's taking? And in my lab is in my garage, but in order for me to access the VM and the controller, I use what is that? Power line. You know what power line is?
Yeah, it goes through the electrical system. Yeah,
and I know that
CPL.
that connection. So if I had my AP at my other switch in my living room, it has to connect back to the controller through power line, and I know for a fact that that connection is not the best. It's about 50 megs, and so I'm like, okay, that's not going to work. Let me put my AP back down and VM connect to the AP locally on the switch. Make sure they're on the same VLAN, so that way it doesn't have to go up to my firewall, which has to traverse through the power line connection. So at first I was using Flex Connect, and for some reason I wasn't getting above like 50 megabits per second on my iPerf 3 tests, which I thought was weird.
Yeah.
And then when I put it into local mode, then that's when I really started seeing results. So with like 40 megahertz channel width, I was getting over 200 megabits per second. And then I bumped it up to 80, and this is on the Cisco AP, and then I was getting over 500, which is great. And that's just on channel 36.
Yeah. Did you try 160?
No, because does the Samsung S10 support 160?
I'm not sure.
I don't think it does. I think that's why I stuck at 80. But I'll retest it. But I then tested it against the Ingenious AP, which is a 2x2. So it's not a fair comparison going from between the Ingenious EWS 357 compared to the Catalyst 9115, because the 9115 is a 4x4. So the 2x2, you're going to get capped at a 2x2, right? And the Samsung itself is also a 2x2.
Yeah.
But I was definitely getting much better speeds at 80 megahertz with the Catalyst 9115. And when running the iPerf test, like if you just do the default flags, it's going to be from the device to the iPerf server. So it's like an upload test. You have to remember to use a reverse flag to make the server send data to simulate a download. So that way you can capture both ways. And then you could set up, multiple instances, multiple streams or threads to really do some testing. But I want to test it with multiple devices, because one device is not going to really give you much data, right? It's a single device. I don't even think I'm going to see the RUs allocated, because it's just going to use up the whole channel.
Yeah, I think the RUs will depend on how they implement it, but I would guess that if you're the only Wi-Fi 6 device out there using the channel, you can just use everything.
Right. Yeah. So I could not see an RU allocation. I've been trying to find a frame that tells me here's how many RUs you get, and I was expecting maybe you get all the RUs, right, or one RU that occupies the whole channel. But I couldn't find that, and I still have to sift through all the frames that I collected. But the other thing I did was look at the spectrum using the Sidekick, and to see what that spectrum looks like, and it just looks like regular OFDM to me. It doesn't look like smaller sub channels being used, right? And that's because I only have one device. I wasn't expecting to see like multiple little sub channels, like the spectrum, the form of the spectrum there. But maybe when I get my Intel chipset, I should be able to see something, or maybe RUs being allocated within the frame. So it'll be and then that's just to see like how Cisco does it. I'm going to do the same thing with Ingenious, and then you'll probably do the same thing with your AeroHive AP. Yeah,
we actually you and I proposed a talk for the WLPC Europe, where we wanted to talk about Wi-Fi 6 in practice, right? Because we heard a lot about Wi-Fi 6 in theory, but we wanted to actually do some testing and talk about, how is Wi-Fi 6 in practice today. So maybe if you guys vote for us, maybe we'll get to share our results at WLPC.
Yeah. I mean, we have so much equipment that we could use and test, and then I'll probably set up some pictures to show you like how I'm testing it. I'll share configurations, and there's definitely different knobs you can select, because even on the controller, I have the option to enable or disable OFDMA.
That's awesome. Yeah, we need to test that.
Yeah, whereas on the Ingenious AP, there's not much I can configure. It's just on. The only I can just configure the channels, but there's nothing much to play with when it comes to Wi-Fi 6. The other thing I did set up was an actual speed test server, a local one, which was HTML5, and I set that up in Linux because who was I talking to? I think I was talking to Jeremy on Slack. And he was saying, Josh. It was Josh Smezel. And he was saying how sometimes like iPerf 3 might either do too many GET requests or has wasteful acknowledgements. So like I wanted to test it against like another application. So I set up a speed test server to see what the difference would look like between speed test and iPerf 3, just to see how they handle requests, right? UDP and TCP, and is one more wasteful than the other, or is one more efficient when it comes to requests?
And the WLAN-PI, it has by default both iPerf and the HTML5 servers installed.
Yeah, and he mentioned that to me too, and I was like, well, maybe I should get a WLAN-PI.
You don't have one?
No. Man. That's because I've never been to WLPC.
Yeah, so I guess you need to go this year. No excuse.
No excuse, yeah. No more excuses. I've never been to one.
All right.
Anyways, that's been my experience testing with Wi-Fi 6. I've spent like hours just playing with my Samsung phone and trying to determine how I can get more data out of these tests.
I think the more we do, the more we'll get some data. Just have to organize it and kind of sort it. I have a quick video of a Spectrum activity I recorded while doing some iPerf testing over Wi-Fi 6, so I can share that as a GIF in the show notes.
Yeah, that'd be cool.
Yeah. If you want to share like a beacon coming from the Cisco AP, looking at OFDMA and stuff like that. Maybe we can do that as well for this episode.
All right, so the last thing we want to talk about, the Wi-Fi Alliance. There's a new certification. This Wi-Fi certified home design, which I thought was an interesting way that they're going here, but I guess it kind of makes sense. It's good for like new homeowners because this is aimed towards builders and the new homes that they're building, whether that's single family homes, multi-dwelling, or maybe possibly like commercial buildings as well. But it's just home design, right? But these builders often also do commercial buildings, so they could take this knowledge to help implement Wi-Fi in newer buildings. I kind of browsed through the details. There's only one company that is certified in this right now. I think it's Lennar. Yeah. They build a lot of homes here in the U.S., but I guess it's aimed at, I don't know how much education these builders get, but it's supposed to help them get certified in planning wireless deployments.
Yeah, and the specifications are actually pretty detailed. Like they have a PDF document on the Wi-Fi Alliance website you can download, and then they tell you that the home design in order to meet the certification, you need to be using high performance AP, which includes simultaneous dual band support, using Wi-Fi, so N, 802.11n and AC, or a GI multiband, and ability to support up to 128 client devices concurrently. I'm guessing it's the associated clients.
They're really putting all their money on IoT here.
Yeah, probably, right? And then they said that they would use Cat5s, computer-assisted design drawings, including placement of specified equipment and materials on each floor or level, including exterior improved areas such as porches and patios. So
yeah, what I find most interesting about that is the builder themselves will have knowledge in planning, so planning, designing, and deploying wireless in the home, which means when you purchase your home, there's already going to be an access point.
Yeah,
in the ceiling.
I think it makes sense.
It does make sense. I think it's great for like the home users, and to me, this also aligns with the other certifications that they have that have been more catered towards the service provider, right? So if you look at your Comcast and your, I don't know, the other providers, your Xfinity, right? You've got this, they offer this in-home Wi-Fi service. Now, if they partner with a builder that's certified to deploy this in the home, you could have your Xfinity built in and designed for you and also deployed properly, like whether that's on the ceiling or properly on the wall. I don't know. With
and then
cabling.
you limit the support calls after that because the Wi-Fi is going to be installed properly. So all the customer complaining about Wi-Fi not being covering the full house, you limit those support calls, and you can end up saving you some money.
Right. And then you build a home where you say this thing is Wi-Fi certified. It's Wi-Fi is going to work. Now, this is assuming that the people that are actually doing the Wi-Fi actually know how Wi-Fi works, because some of the details on this document actually say RF planning and setting transmit power. So these are supposed to be actually technical people doing this and should have a good understanding. But if you look at the downside of this, the way I would see it is they're just going to give it to some person, and maybe the company themselves just have this guideline that says, here's how you should do it. Here's the settings you should pick. And it might just be kind of a boilerplate template, especially if they're building multi-dwelling units. I could see an advantage for multi-dwelling units because then you plan and design for the whole building versus every single renter just doing whatever they want over Wi-Fi.
Yeah.
But then I start questioning, okay, if they're going to design it, who owns the equipment? Who's managing this equipment. Because if you're going to just plan for it, do you just hand off the equipment to the renter or homeowner, or how does that work?
It's probably the builder, right? It becomes one of the utility, kind of like electricity and water, right?
So does that mean it's a monthly recurring revenue for them? They're providing this as a service, or
I'm not sure. It's a good question. What I like about this whole certification is that, they're involving the Wi-Fi guys at the beginning of the project, where they actually, build the house, and which makes sense. It's kind of like the electrical guys, right? They come in when they build a house. So you could implement and choose a proper location around the cables right when they build the house. So it's way easier to just do a proper installation and optimize.
Yeah, or even at a minimum, if they've designed it, they know where to put the data connections. So there might not be equipment there, but you could have an Ethernet port maybe on the ceiling somewhere, because, hey, this is where you should put your access point, or on a wall because they said, here's how we designed it. I don't know, because what equipment are they going to use? Is it going to be Linksys or
it has to
ASUS?
be an AC and Agile multiband certified.
Yeah. Aren't all those ASUS routers considered high performance?
Probably, I would say, but I don't know.
Some of those have like 8 antennas on them.
Yeah. So I don't know. Maybe we're gonna have a new market for it. I have no idea.
Yeah, that's what it kind of seems like it's just creating more of a market towards these businesses, right? Another way to create revenue streams, not just for the Wi-Fi Alliance, but also for home builders, to find a way to either differentiate themselves from others. It's a hyper-connected world, so if you're working with a builder that understands this, there's an advantage there.
Yeah. So I don't know. The only thing is that, the Wi-Fi Alliance comes up with this certification program, but we have to see if people are actually going to embrace it. Because if no one uses it, it's kind of like useless.
Yeah, because now I'm going to go to this company, Lennar, and be like, hey, show me your Wi-Fi home design.
No, you know what you need to do? The next time you buy a house, you say, I'm not buying a house if it's not a Wi-Fi home design certified.
I need to see that certification.
Yeah, and I want to see the certification.
If you go to the Wi-Fi Alliance page, right, we'll include the link in the show notes. There is a plan. You can download a zip file and actually see this plan. So let us know what you guys think. Is this, I don't know, as technical people, as people, engineers, as the ones who actually design Wi-Fi and enterprises and such, like, how do you guys feel about that? How do you guys think this will be perceived in the general public, right? Because this is now like a whole new market targeted towards home Wi-Fi. Like, does that open up services for professionals to come in and be like, look, I'm home Wi-Fi home design certified. I also have a CWNE. Like, is there anything worth it in doing that? Or maybe partnering with a big company like that to help them.
Or maybe builders will need qualified people to do all these certifications.
Mm-hmm. So the next thing I would see is probably some certification aimed towards really large companies that do big rollouts like this. So similar to the certified home design, but maybe something in the commercial space.
Like, you mean like malls and places like that?
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. It's called home, though.
Yeah. Well, I mean, they could create another certification.
Yeah, I guess.
Aimed towards the commercial side. I don't know. We'll see. I'd like to see this gain traction. Like, some of the other certifications haven't gained much traction yet, but we'll see.
Remember they did one with mesh for home networks? We talked about it like a year ago.
Yeah, we haven't
heard about this one.
That's where I see that aimed towards the service provider, because that's what they're deploying, because the customer, the homeowner, didn't have the cabling infrastructure to deploy. So they kind of tie in with each other.
All I guess future will tell.
Yep. Well, that's all we have, guys.
All right, that was our Wi-Fi medley.
That was a medley. I'll try to find a song that goes with the medley, although that might be too long of a song. So, all right, guys, head over to the show notes, cleartosend.net/173 to see all the links and resources that we just talked about. And if you're headed out to Cisco Live, let us know so we can meet up with you guys. Definitely want to network with everyone that listens to the show. Other than that, that's it for me. Looking forward to Cisco Live, and we'll see you at the next episode.
See you guys. Thank you for listening. Bye-bye. Bye.